Last night, my friends, my crush, and I agreed to meet at my favorite bar after work. I was a bit early since I got to leave work 30 minutes early, so I went inside and ordered a beer for myself. There was this huge muscular guy with a long ponytail sitting at the bar, and the seat next to him was empty. He offered me to sit down, so I did. We had some small talk and he seemed nice enough. Just asked me why I'm all alone and kept talking about how I looked so uneasy and nervous and that I should relax. It was weird, but he had an almost empty bottle of vodka in front of him, so I really didn't think anything of it. My friends finally arrived just as I finished my beer and we went to sit at a table. I had 3 more bottles of beer and we were having a great time. Whenever I went to the toilet, that guy from the bar was there asking me if I was okay. That was pretty strange, but at the time I just felt a little tipsy and everything was alright. At some point I started to feel sick, so I went outside to have a cigarette and get some cold air. The guy followed me outside and asked if I was alright yet again. I was starting to get weirded out at that point. The bar was super full, but he really seemed to watch me all night long. I went back inside, ordered a glass of water, and I told my friends that I wasn't feeling well and I would be going home. Every single one of them offered to bring me home, which I'm so grateful for looking back. I took a sip of water, and then it all just hit me. I ran outside and threw up. I could barely stand up all of a sudden, so I decided to sit down on a staircase and kept throwing up. My friends found me a few minutes later, and they kept arguing about whether they should take me to a taxi or carry me home. Then the guy from the bar showed up. He kept saying that he lives just down the street and that I could sleep on his couch. My coworker, who's basically like an older brother to me, got really pissed and told the guy to screw off. They forced me to stand up, which was almost impossible at that point, and somehow dragged me to my friend's place where I went to sleep, hugging a bucket and feeling like I was gonna die any second. The next morning, I wasn't able to stand for hours. When I did, it resulted in instant vomiting. It was 1 p.m. when I finally managed to go to the train station, get something to eat and drink, and head home. I'm still shaking and sweating, and everything looks blurry. I'm almost 100% certain that guy roofied my drink. Watch your back when you go to bars, and most importantly, always watch your drink. There can always be some creep there ready to roofie it and take advantage of you. About 4 years ago, I worked at a pizza restaurant where the bar only served beer and wine. The staff was all very close to one another and a lot of us lived together and carpooled. Well, one Friday night I was working with 2 of my best friends and one of their boyfriends. About an hour before we closed, this younger guy walks in and sits at the bar. My friend serves him 1 beer and a slice of pizza. They talked pretty consistently throughout the rest of the night since he was the only one sitting at the bar. Nothing flirty, just friendly conversation. He was a really nice guy and acted completely sober when he came in. After about 2 short beers, he totally flipped a switch. All of a sudden, it was like he was hammered. We were all so confused because, well, he only had 2 beers. My friend gave him his check and asked him if she could call him a cab so he could get home safely. He declines and says a friend would be there soon to pick him up. He pays his bill and she grabs him a water to go. About 30 minutes later, he was still there and we were getting ready to leave. We asked him if his friend was going to be there soon because we needed to lock up. He replied that he'd be there in a few minutes. We asked him if he'd wait on the bench outside so we could go home. He agreed and he went outside and sat by the front door. We finished closing up the restaurant and bar and we all headed out for the night. After locking up, he started asking my friend who served him very odd and personal questions. She said she didn't feel comfortable answering and we all started to walk to our cars. I rode with my roommate and her boyfriend, but our other friend rode alone. He followed us to our car and the boyfriend turned around and said, "What do you want?" And he asked if he could have some of my friend's water, which she gave to him and kept walking. She was so freaked out and she ran to her car, got in and locked the doors. We were already in our car when she was about to drive away, but he ran in front of her car and screamed that she needed to take him home with her. She yelled back that if he didn't move, she would hit him with her car. He then flung himself onto her car and took something out of his pocket and repeatedly hit her window. My friend's boyfriend started rushing over there and pulled him off of her car. After he did that, she managed to drive away. The guy then rolled over onto the sidewalk and started to crawl away. We drove off right after this and haven't seen him since. Last Friday, after a particularly difficult week at work, I wanted to meet up with my friends at a local wine bar / art house that we're regulars at. My poetry was actually debuted there. I'm good friends with the owner. I texted my friends during the day, and we're great to go on. I work close to the wine bar, so I headed there straight after work. Arriving before my friends, I decide to order a glass of wine. I greet the owner who's behind the bar, and there's an older man there who seemed to be excited to have a conversation, but I decided to cut it short and take it out onto the patio to relax. It's pretty quiet at the bar, but by the time my friends arrive, 45 minutes to 1 hour later, it gets busy. They order their drinks, and I get a second one. We find a spot outside of the patio to catch up. A few of their friends join us, and we're all chatting a group of guys who try to come up and hit on us. They start saying things about how they like the way we look. We shake them off politely and keep chatting. My boyfriend sends me a text and says he would be by in a few minutes to drop something off. He knows the owner. My boyfriend pulls up, drops the item off, and I walk him to his car and give him a kiss goodbye. Back to my friends. They're chatting and having a good time, and the group of guys comes up to see us again. We shake them off yet again. I finish my second drink, and one of my friends asks if I want to go to the side of the building to smoke a bit. I was down, so we went to the side. Continuing our chatting, my friend was rolling her joint, and this is when I started to feel strange. Like I started to feel lightheaded and have hot flashes. I remember turning my head to look out towards the road, and everything seemed very far away. And then everything went black. I remember bits and pieces of trying to get to the car and my legs not working. My friends trying to hold me up. The next thing I remember is sitting on my couch crying with my friend. She tells me that she called my boyfriend to come stay with me and they think someone spiked my drink. I notice that my legs are scraped and bleeding and I don't remember falling. My boyfriend stayed with me all night long. I remember bits and pieces of it, more crying, confusion, and being extremely uncomfortable. Yes, I'm happy and grateful that my friends were there to notice me and get me to safety, but it's greatly affected the way I feel. I don't feel safe anywhere now. I feel uneasy. This may be because I've prided myself on being able to take care of myself and my ability to protect myself. This is a place I felt shame. I have some sleep issues and anxiety since this happened. My boyfriend wants to bring me back once I'm ready so I can have some good memories there and experience it in a good way again. I don't really know why I'm writing this other than attempt to get a sense of relief. I know I'm okay and that it could have ended up a lot worse, but still, it's just hard to let go and get past it. This was back in the 1990s. I was a single mom and I picked up a Saturday night bartending job at a place that was off the highway on a frontage road, not immediately close to anything but in between some pretty large towns in the affluent suburbs north of Chicago. This place was pretty hoppin' after work hours, but sadly not on Saturday nights, and I'd often find myself alone or with only a handful of customers. This particular night was dark, rainy, and a thunderstorm was raging outside. In walks this rugged, handsome man, windswept blonde hair, crystal blue eyes, nice build, and he sits at the bar. It's just the two of us, and I walk over to take his drink order. He orders, I make the drink, and he had put $2.25 on the bar. I hand him the drink and I realize he didn't give me enough money, so I tell him I need another quarter. The drink is $2.50. Mind you, we're alone in this good-sized bar. It's a dark night and thunder and lightning are raging outside. It's not very close to any other businesses that I could run to or where other people might be, and he looks at me straight in the eye and calmly says,
"I'm Satan. Tell me what you really want. I can give you anything you want. What is it that you really want?"
At this point, I'm shaking in my shoes. I'm not really sure how I even mustered up a response, and I look at him back and say, "I want another quarter for your drink, and I want you to stop being scary." He gave me the quarter, downed his drink, and left. I had to close up alone, and believe me, I was on edge until the following morning. I didn't work there much longer after that. Seeing Satan once was more than enough for me. So let's start with some background. I'm a male, and I've been in college for a few years now. A group of people from my program would always go to this dive bar on our college's street every Thursday night. They did karaoke, so it was a fun way for us to all blow off steam once a week. Unfortunately, as the school year went on, the bar got sketchier and sketchier, until one day this group of guys started showing up. They weren't the cleanest, friendliest, or even the soberest of people, frequently hitting on some of my friends and making everyone extremely uncomfortable. One time one of the guys walked up to my friend and flat out asked in the middle of our conversation if we wanted any cocaine. Anyway, now that some background is out of the way, on this particular night we decided to stay until last call, and I heard some of those weird guys saying how they wanted some college nookie that night. Concerned for my friends who weren't dressed the most PG of the group, I asked a couple of my boys to stick back with me to make sure they got in their Uber safely. They of course agreed because they're bros and they were concerned as well. So we chilled at a table near the door and waited until they came out of the bathroom half an hour after last call. And now we see that they call their Uber and get in it safe. Once they drive off, my buddies and I start walking back to the residence. So it's just the three of us, me and my two friends, walking back at 2:40 in the morning. We get about 5 minutes away from the bar when I hear the scuffling of shoes behind us. I turn around and see one of the shorter guys walking a little ways behind us very quickly. It was pretty late and I was tired, so I didn't make anything of it. Big mistake. 5 more minutes pass and I hear someone say,
"Hey, wait up,"
from behind us. It's one of those guys and he has a taller friend with him now. Immediately I get this horrible feeling in my gut. We ignore them, but we start walking faster, but the shorter guy squeezes between my friend and me and stops dead in front of me. I think to myself, crap, this is where I die. Rest in peace me, nice knowing you guys. The bigger guy looks at us, almost sizing us up, and then says,
"You boys know there's a tax for walking out here so late, right?"
We all then look at each other with a mix of annoyance and confusion. The little guy chimes in with,
$30 each. Now, give it.
Now, with us being poor college students, we don't carry cash on us, and we made that known.
"Give us your wallets then,"
the big guy said. We lied through our teeth saying we didn't have those on us either. So big guy puts his hands on my buddy's shoulders and says while pointing down to a very poorly lit street,
"Well, then I guess you don't mind if we pat you guys down right over here, do ya? You're not carrying your wallets, so there's nothing to worry about, right?"
Of course I mind, you freaking weirdo. Leave us alone. My buddy had the same idea. He shoved the guy's hands off his shoulders and then said, "Nope, I'm not gonna do that." Then the big guy out of nowhere grabs my buddy by the throat and punches him square in the jaw. My other buddy then tackles the big guy off of him while the little guy jumps on his back. I'm now standing there basically frozen and having never been in a fight before. My buddy realizes this and then turns to me and shouts for me to run. So I start to run away. I look back and see that my friends are not too far behind. The big guy yells,
"Get back here!"
Obviously we had no intention of returning to them, so we just sprinted, eventually losing them. My buddy calls the cops and they meet us back at the residence. We give them our statements and I take the officers to the bar and where we got attacked. They say they'll let us know if they find them. One of our other friends, who just so happened to be up at the time, came and invited us up to his room for some celebratory whiskey, because the only reason we stayed behind and got mugged was because we wanted to protect our lady friends from those guys. It's been a couple of months and I haven't heard anything from the cops, but needless to say, we definitely had to find a new spot for our Thursday night outings. For the record, I'm a 28-year-old male, and this happened just last year in a major southern US city. My best friend Laura and I took advantage of an extended weekend to visit several of our close friends whom all moved to said city. For clarity, their names are Jacob, Jessica, Bailey, and Tim. Conveniently, they all live in the same house, which is important. We had no shortage of fun and eventful moments Thursday and Friday, but Saturday night is where it all kicks off. We went to this arcade bar that had nearly every arcade game in history, plus all the new fighting games converted to arcade style. Jacob and I have a pretty mean geek streak, so this was pure bliss for us. Getting to dominate in Tekken, Injustice, TMNT, more Tekken, etc. Lauren was also having a blast with us, but Bailey and Jessica were struggling to find enjoyment, bless their hearts. Eventually, they decided to grab an Uber to their favorite country/line dancing bar. I'd been before and country is just not my thing, so I stuck to the bar arcade. Eventually, Lauren decided to take an Uber to the country bar as well, as she'd never been and was curious. Planned to fully regroup at the country bar when the bar arcade closed. We set up a group text and told Jessica and Bailey that Lauren was coming to meet her at the front, since it is a massive place. And off she went. I don't really remember how much time had passed, but I received a text from Lauren telling me she couldn't find Bailey anywhere and that Jessica had already gone home. Jacob and I decided to drive over there, pick up Lauren, and head home. We figured Bailey was with the guy that she was interested in at the time, hence her radio silence. After the 20-ish minute drive to the bar, I called Lauren and told her we were out front, only for her to respond with, "It's okay, I'm gonna stay a while longer." "Are you sure you want to stay?" I asked. "Yes," she said plainly. With no other option, I asked that she let us know when she heads back and to be safe. Jacob and I drove back to the house. Before I go any further, I need to describe the layout of this house. It's a traditional 2-bedroom house with the office room having been converted for an extra bedroom. This house also had no curtains or blinds on any windows. There's 2 massive windows in the living room looking out to the main road and door windows in the former office room. In the backyard, there's a garage that has its own mini house attached to it. This is where Jacob lives, and I slept there for the weekend. Once we got home, we had 1 or 2 more drinks, and at around 2:30 a.m., I got a text from Lauren saying she was on her way back. With that, I went to the futon and passed out. I was jolted awake to the sound of the door being burst open and somebody shouting at us. It was Bailey. She was shouting at us, frantically demanding to know where Lauren was. My watch read 4:30 and I felt really uneasy in my stomach. It took Jacob and me about 15 minutes to get home, so where the heck was she? She hadn't answered or returned any of Bailey's calls. Jacob was so drunk that he couldn't stay awake, so it was on Bailey and me to try and find her. I called Lauren and she luckily picked up. Having known her for 10 years, I could tell she was both highly intoxicated and scared, trying not to show it as best she could. This in turn scared me even more. Asking obviously where the heck she was and if she was okay, she aggravatedly responded that she's okay and in an Uber headed to the house. ETA 15 minutes. I couldn't get any more information from her. She said she needed to hang up so she could use her GPS to get home, and hung up. Why would she need to use GPS if she has an Uber? 15 minutes on the dot and no sign of Lauren arriving. I was ready to turn this whole town upside down, but I called one more time. She picks up, sounding just as agitated, but this time I hear more than one voice on the other line before they all hush. As I start asking her all the details of the Uber car, the driver, and the passengers, she tells me that it's a red Toyota sedan and she's 3 minutes out, hanging up the phone once again abruptly. Not taking any chances, I quickly put on a shirt and pants, grabbed my 2 knives, ready for a potential mess with whomever these guys might be, and waited on the front porch. Bailey was ready to call 911 in the event things went south. Roughly 3 minutes later, a vehicle slowed towards our driveway. A white pickup truck. The passenger door opens and out walks Lauren, exiting with haste and not bothering to close the door or look back. She didn't say a word to the driver. I could quickly see 3 other dudes in the truck, but couldn't get any specifics before one of them closed the door. As we both rushed to Lauren's side to help her get in, she was dead silent and slightly stumbling hastily to the house. After what she told us, I have plenty of reason to believe that these guys were traffickers. She was all alone and lost in the bar when a guy came up and asked her to dance. When she agreed, another guy came and then grabbed her phone and wallet with the excuse that it'll make dancing easier. How easy it'd be to check her ID and see that she's not from the state and appeared to be on her own. Plus, they could use that as a means to keep her from leaving. They took her to a separate room where a bunch of guys had her drink a crapload of booze. She'd be way too intoxicated to drive and she wouldn't look drugged, making it easy to slip her past security under the guise of she's too drunk to drive. We'll take her home. They said they knew the address to which she wanted to go but knew a shortcut. Lauren's too smart to fall for that, which is why she pulled up her GPS. Once I called, they must have realized that people were already looking for her. After she told us all of this in the living room, we noticed that the truck had not moved, only turned its headlights off. Once I turned the lights off, they finally left. No couch for tonight. She was definitely sharing a bed with someone that night. We made sure that every single door and window was locked and to call us or 911 if anything went bump in the night. I went back to the garage house only to find the front door not properly locked. Damn it. The only brilliant idea I had was to place a bunch of empty cans from the weekend against the door so we could hear if the door even slightly opened. By this point it was about 5 in the morning, still no sun, knife went under my pillow, and I went back to sleep. I was pretty confident that the ordeal had passed, but I was pretty creeped out at the thought that these are likely dangerous people, and they know where my friends live now. Not even an hour later, I woke again to a sound by the door. Sure enough, it was the sound of beer cans sliding along the tile floor, followed by the door quickly but quietly being shut. Knife in my hand and ready to piss a river, I was confronted with 2 immediate choices. Check the window if anyone was outside fleeing, or check the interior for any intruders. I chose the latter, stupidly forgetting to call my friends or 911. I was tired and scared. Jacob still hadn't budged from his bed, and I couldn't find the strength to open my mouth. I just kept checking every room and corner underneath Jacob's bed and the garage. If the situation weren't already terrifying, that garage at night would be a phenomenal prop for any scary movie. After concluding that Jacob and I were the only ones in the house, I checked the beer cans on the floor. It wasn't my imagination or a dream. The beer cans had been pushed by the door. Someone had just tried to get in. I looked out the window for the first time and found nothing out of the ordinary, but I gave whomever came snooping plenty of time to run or hide as I checked inside. Thanking only for the safety of my friends inside the main house, I made yet another stupid decision to step outside and check the perimeter. It was still incredibly dark out. The only light available was by a dim backyard light that they perpetually kept on, along with my flashlight. There were no cars at this time of night, no dogs barking, and I can't remember hearing any birds or insects. The silence was unholy. I was waiting to hear footsteps or breathing or to see someone at every turn of my flashlight. Nobody was in the backyard, so I checked the windows and doors for any signs of disturbance. I could see directly into the office bedroom, which made me feel sick at the thought of someone with ill intentions peering in to see who was sleeping in that room. Fortunately, my search was anticlimactic, as I didn't find any sign of anyone sticking around. Regardless, I rushed into the garage house, relieved myself, rearranged the beer cans in case someone were here to try again, and I stayed awake and alert until the adrenaline sent me to sleep. My watch read 11:30ish when I woke up, and as far as I know, nothing further happened. I updated a rather hungover Jacob about what went down less than 12 hours ago, to which he simply responded, "Dang." I find it rather funny given how high-strung I was handling the situation. I really didn't want to, but I asked everyone if they tried to get into the garage house after Lauren was back home. And of course, nobody said they did. I only told Jacob about my personal ordeal in hopes that he would get the lock fixed. I didn't want to freak anyone else out more than they already were. 2 months later, when Lauren and I came back to see them, I told them everything. I was most pleased to see that Jacob's lock had been fixed and there are now blinds on nearly every window. Lessons learned. Hey everyone, I hope you enjoyed today's video. And if you have your own personal scary story, be sure to submit that to my subreddit at reddit.com/r/southerncannibal or to my email at southerncannibal@gmail.com. I'm always looking for new stories. And before we bring this video to a close, I just want to shout out all of my $5 or more patrons, as well as my $3 or more patrons featured on screen. Shout out to Babe Lincoln, Beth A, Kate E, Celeste S, Ellie S, Emily W, Heather B, Howard R, Jacqueline W, Jazzy G, Jonathan C, Lori J, Matthew B, Michael G, Random Randy, Steph L, Tammy S, and Terry H. Thank all of you so much for supporting me on Patreon. I really appreciate it more than you know. And if any of you would like to join these awesome people and also become a patron, head over to my Patreon at patreon.com/southerncannibal. Thank you everyone, and have a good one. And remember to always stay